Now, as promised, we go back to our top story where we're taking on a discussion on Japan's new love for Africa, especially with the ongoing Tokyo International Conference. We're now being joined on the news at 10 by Mr. Charles Unanaju, who is the director at the Center for China Studies in Abuja, to discuss Japan's interest in Africa. He joins us from our Abuja studios. Mr. Unanaju, welcome. First, let me ask you, Africa appears to be the toast of everybody right now. First, it was the US, then China, and now Japan. What do you think is responsible for this interest?
Yeah, Africa is commonly referred as a new frontier, the new industrial frontier, the most unexplored continent of the world. So it's getting quite a lot of attention. And actually, Japan African cooperation is not new. TICAD is almost 26 years old. The first was held in 1996, and it's been going on. And I think the engagement and the prominence of Africa currently in global affairs is, of course, a recognition of the role she could play. And I think engaging with Japan, which is a major country in the Pacific Rim, Asia Pacific, which is the most important region in the world, about 40% of global trade takes place in the Asian Pacific. I think the interest of these important Asian countries, Japan, China, Korea, is also very, very important for Africa. Yeah.
Now, there were feelers that Washington was not too comfortable with China's romance with Africa. Now it's Japan joining the fray. Do you see this as creating some kind of Cold War, if you like, between these countries on who Africa should be doing business with? Or do you think the US and China will feel threatened, both of them, by Japan's moves in Africa?
Yeah, but Africa should be interested in global partnership. Africa is open to partnership, to any genuine. African space is too wide to accommodate all kinds of partners, including the United States, South America, Asia, Japan, China. Absolutely, it is in Africa's best interest to engage the world a lot more robustly, and that is what it's doing. And what is important is to convert this global attention into tangibles, into deliverables, into practical improvement in the living condition of African people. So I think this attention is very important. It is important to leverage policy options, to leverage this attention Africa is receiving. And like I said, China, Japan, Africa is not in for grab. It's not a second scramble. It's just that Africa has become prominent. Africa has become important. Her contribution to global governance is gradually being recognized. And it is also important for Nigeria and Africa to recognize a shift of the center of gravity, a shift to the Pacific region. Even the United States pivoted. It did what it called pivot from Europe to Asia Pacific. And it is important for us to recognize this shift. This shift is not only been happening, there are institutional underpinning of this shift. China has launched the so-called Belt and Road Initiative, which is a global framework of connectivity and engagement. Japan is also launching new framework for cooperation with Africa, in which it held its private sector as the key driver of cooperation with Africa. These are critical initiatives that Africa can leverage upon to address some of its key existential challenges, ranging from human capacity, ranging from infrastructure challenges, and others. So I think it's in Africa's best interest that it is being paid serious attention. Of course, this does not mean that our traditional friends, the West, Americans, Europeans, should be ignored. My take is that African space is too wide to accommodate all interested partners who are genuinely interested in engaging Africa. I do not think it's about rivalry. Some of
the objectives you've mentioned, from the visuals there, you see a number of African leaders are there. Do you think that those leaders are now able to negotiate for the kinds of deals that produce the kind of benefits you've just described for their various peoples?
Absolutely. I agree with you completely. There is a challenge of sufficient governance capacity on the part of Africa to leverage some of this attention, because if this attention are not properly leveraged, it could go the way of the olden days. So there is a need for greater understanding of the international system, the shift that has taken place, the change that have taken place, to evolve a paradigm that captures these basic essentials. There's no need to be locked in the traditional way. International system is completely changed. It's completely overhauled. There is a new shift. So it is important to recognize this, develop new capacity to engage them, develop new governance approaches to engage them. And that is the only way Africa can get a lot of takeaways.
Thank you very much, Mr. Charles Onanuju.
But like I said,
Mr. Onanuju, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so very much. Mr. Onanuju is the director of the China Center for China Studies in Abuja, and he joined us from our Abuja studios. Thank you very much.